Hi cousins, and welcome back to Textiles East Fair YouTube channel. This is a channel really dedicated to those that attend the Textiles East Fair, but you're all welcome. So if you're not in the UK and you're abroad, then warm wishes to you, and I hope you enjoy the content that I upload. Now, the content is diverse. It's not, I don't stick to one technique for very long. I keep changing. 1 minute I might be printing, 1 minute might be hand stitching, next minute free motion embroidery. I like to dabble in all sorts of different things, but this video I thought I'd just upload a little update as to the sort of projects I'm doing currently. I'm not a massive quilter, though I have done quilts. I've done 2 quilts, well no, 3 quilts if you include the double-sided one, in as much patchwork and applique, etc., that type of thing. And the one I'm working on today was merely inspired by the fact that I bought a piece of fabric, and it was one of those fabrics that I bought because I liked it. It was an impulse buy at a show, and I thought I need to do something with it really. I could do with a lap quilt. It's winter here now in the UK, and it's what we call drizzy outside, where it's windy, it's rainy, it's very unpleasant. It's the sort of weather that you want to come in out of the cold, wrap up next to your hot fire, and have a bowl of soup, tomato soup preferably, and snuggle down with perhaps a good book or a good bit of stitching. So let me show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to have a look at my table. So here's the panel, and you can see it's got several beautiful autumnal images, which is very fitting for this time of the year in the UK. This is very windswept and very wet here. And this actually is a more joyful image of winter, or autumn I should say. Right, like there. There's quite a lot of deer in our area, a lot of deer. Some beautiful owls, particularly this large one. So this panel is a panel that you can cut up and incorporate into your own quilt. Hedgehogs. I haven't seen the hedgehogs this year, and I haven't heard them. We usually have them. Not entirely sure. Just in the next town to us, in Chatteris, there's the hedgehog rehoming, a charity run by a lovely lady who looks after the hedgehogs. So this particular one is called, just show you, it's the Autumn Days panel by Macawa UK, 100% cotton. So that's the panel I'm using. And when I bought the panel, I had a quick look to see if there's a pattern, patchwork pattern to go with it, and there was, and I realised that for some strange reason I'm a whole strip missing off this, so I couldn't actually follow the pattern on, I think it actually was on the Macawa website. So I thought, okay, I'll make up my own. So here's my own. And what I actually did was, to do this, I photographed I selected my materials that matched. So I basically got my panel, let me get my panel back again. Here's my panel. Got my panel, and I auditioned all the fabrics that I have. So I've got some pre-cuts. I thought, you know what, I'm not going to buy more fabric. I don't need more fabric. I've got my own stash. I need to use it up. So these were some pre-cuts I'd bought, which was lucky. I think what it is, if you're drawn to a certain colourway, which for me seems to be autumn or blues and greens, then I usually invariably have quite a lot of fabric. I've been collecting batiks for years, so I've got some batiks that were matching quite nicely. So I've got all those as well. As I say, I've got a lot of these beautiful batiks. So once I got all my fabrics together, I wanted to do, I photographed these just with a regular camera, and then I flood filled shapes, squares in this case, and you can see I then move the squares. I've been, you can see I photographed, I don't know if you can see that, let me bring up a little bit closer to you. I photographed these, and it's not really breaching copyright because it's a pattern for myself. I'm not going to distribute it, but you can see that's just a photograph from the fabric. And then I've created little patchworks within it. So this is a simple sort of, I say simple, I've yet to make that one, so I'll find out if it's simple or not. This one I found on a Facebook, and I wish I could find who uploaded that image, because I would have liked to have said, you know, thanks to that person for putting that image up. But on Facebook there was this image of a beautiful leaf, so I thought I'd have a go. So here's my version of that beautiful leaf, and I've used my batiks and I've used the cream, and it needs pressing. I might put a border on it. I might use the blue fabric. Let me show you the blue. It looks a bit bright on here, but it's not that bright. It's quite a subtle colour because that matches with the blues on the owl. I don't know if you can see that. So that blue's there. So there's a nice bit of a contrast, but sort of subtle contrast, if that makes sense. So once I worked out what sort of patchwork patterns I wanted to do, so I've already done the leaf one, which is the centre one, so it's all going to revolve around that. At some point I've got to make these up using this fabric and the cream, and yeah, I'm going to leave that till quite towards the end because it involves machining, and at the moment, because of the weather's like it is, I'm sitting more in the lounge hand sewing, so they'll come later. So when I say I've been hand sewing, what have I been hand sewing? Well, you see these panels here. I don't know if you can see that. These ones here, I've numbered them. I thought, how dull are they? I thought they were really dull. So what I've done is I've been inspired by the elements on here. I've not copied them. I've just been inspired by them. So there's sort of like a certain type of leaf, or there's a certain type of, there's a genka leaf here. We've got some kind of branch, then we've got toadstools. So I've recreated my own little patterns based on, I've also had to make myself a cutting list, which, oh my goodness, working that all out, it's taken me some time. So there's one of, I don't know if you can see that, it's in pencil unfortunately. So there's my leaf. I've done a toadstool. So each of those squares will have to be different. There's my genka leaves. Again, I don't know if you can see them, they're all a little bit faint under the light. There's a multi, I don't know if you can see that, multi-leafed plant. You'll see them better when I actually show you how far I've got. And an acorn, an oak tree or an acorn there. And I think I've got one more to do. I haven't done it yet. There's one oh no, here's here. One more here. Now I'm leaving this one to the very end, and the reason for that is these are quite small elements, and I'm thinking I'll use up my trimmets, because there's always, as you can see, trimmets from the larger shapes, and I can definitely get some of these smaller berries or leaves out of these trimmets. It's always, so this will be what I call my trimmet one. So how have I got on so far? So that was my pattern. I've worked out my pattern, it's just taken me a little while, and now I have started to hand stitch those panels. So do you remember the oak leaf? There's my oak leaf, and if I bring my owl back in, hang on, let me bring my owl back, bring my panel back, you can hopefully see that that will go with the design, tie in with the design. I don't know what that leaf's called. Yes I do, it's horse chestnut. I do know that leaf, it's a horse chestnut because there's one just round from us. And being British, conkers are important to us, so I should have remembered that. Another oak leaf. Now I've done it, so what I've done is I've done them, so I've done one on green and then one on the sort of burgundy colour. So I've got one of each, but weirdly it's the same fabrics but they look so different. So that's that one on that one. And then I've got it again. Well, this is the one no. Yeah, I've got another one of that in red. I'll find that in a minute. This is the genka leaves. What I'll do when I come to, because I'm going to do quilt as you go. I'm going to quilt around these, stitch around them. I'm going to do like a shadow quilting, I think. I need to put stems on them. I'm going to do some more stitching to embellish them, I think. That's that multi-leaf one in the 2 different colourways. So I'm quite chuffed with that one. And this is my toadstools. So again, hopefully you can see that all these all go nicely with this. So these ones I've been doing by hand. So these are what's called needle turned. So here's another one of this horse chestnut leaf. And you can see I've cut it out, it's raw edge currently, and then I'm what's called needle turning, which is where you get your needle and you kind of flick it under. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but you flick it under like that, and then you sew. Now, there are several people do it. There's different methods for this. This is a method I've decided to use. You can use like a waxed paper, freezer paper, and you can put your mould on here and then you can fold to that and then you can pull it out, all sorts of things like this. But I prefer to get my template. I should have a template somewhere here. Here's my template. I don't know if you can see. And you can see I've got the tiniest seam allowance ever. It's probably, what, 3 millimeters. It's, I don't know what it is in inches, I'm sorry, I don't know, but it is tiny. And then I choose to just place my thumb where I want it to stop. So if I place my thumb there, I can then get my needle, sort of grab it and tuck it to where my thumb is, and then sew. My needle's not threaded, but I'll have to thread it in a minute. But what's nice with these, because I like to use the batiks for this, what I like about batiks is because of its sort of, I don't think it's got wax in it so much, but there does seem to be some stiffness to it. You can sort of almost finger iron it, finger press it, I think they call it. So let me grab some thread. Right, I've zoomed in so in the hope that you can see a bit better. So there's the raw edge. So all I'm doing is I'm using my needle, I'm using my thumb, my nail, to stop me going any further than I want to. I don't know if I can't really bend my hand any better to help you see. And then I grab my needle and I kind of slide it under like that. Press it firmly with my thumb. And then what I'm doing is I'm doing almost, I suppose, like a slip stitch, where you go tiny little stitch and then you go under a little way. You don't go very far, again a couple of centimetres, and then you come and you catch the edge, very edge. If you don't catch the very edge, you end up with big stitches showing on the front, and you're trying to avoid that. Also, that's a pain doing that sort of thing like that. There you go. So I'll show you again. I'm going to have my thumb where I want the edge to stop. I'm going to use my needle to slide underneath to get it where I want it to be. Now you can do things like clip in the curves. What that means is you get a pair of scissors and you just snip it. I find that on the convex curves, if I do that, you end up with like a pointy bits. So I don't tend to do it on the concave, but I might on the convex. Convex, definitely you have to. I'll explain what that means in a minute. So you can see I'm just doing tiny little stitches, picking up on the edge. And then I'm going down right down, almost underneath the batik, the edge of that applique, and coming back up and catching it. Hope you can see that. So I'm going right underneath where I've just come up, and then I'm coming up on the edge of the applique. And again, I would use my needle just to fold that in, like that. I'd carry on. So this method, you have to be absolutely sure your patch is where you want it to be, because the little tiny fold you're doing, you have to do as you're sewing. It's not something you can pre-iron iron, I find, with this method. I mean, you can, if it's a simple square, pre-iron it, do. But if it's like this, quite a complicated shape, then you obviously, well, I say it's not obvious, but you have to do it bit by bit. So this is quite a nice curve, a nice smooth curve that you can do quite easily. I mean, you could pre-press that one, I suppose. But when you get to more complicated ones, like the dots here, you can't press them. That's nice, easy to sew. I think the hardest one I found to sew was probably this one. And the reason for that, it's these here. Let me get a pin, let me point out where I mean. This bit here, coming in here, these are a bit of a pain because you have to cut in with your pair of scissors and then you get like a raw edge, and then to try and coax that knit thread in, I end up having to put at least 3 or 4 stitches just in that tiny little area. So be warned if you're doing anything this intricate, because this is, for me, I find this quite fiddly. It's doable, but it's fiddly. So I'm just giving you the heads up for that. So I hope that little bit of a demonstration was helpful. Got my pieces here ready for my next toadstool. So as I say, these are the elements. A tip I will give you is obviously make sure you've got a very small seam allowance going all the way around, but where you've got elements overlapping, where's my where is one? There it is. Where you've got elements overlapping, you can see, hang on, I think that might be, that goes there, you'll see I've got quite a big seam allowance for, pop that over the top. You can see there's quite a big seam allowance where they do that. Okay, so just to give you a heads up, don't forget to have things overlap, don't butt them. And that's the same with the acorn. The acorn's the same. Make sure your acorn is underneath some way if ever you're doing anything like this. Well, I hope that next time I show you this project, I will have got the quilted patches done, and perhaps even started some of the quilt as you go. I'm going to say free embroidery quilting, I think, around these. Not sure yet. It's like everything. I might end up hand stitching my quilting. Who knows? Anyway, thanks again for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.